Akash, let me start with you. Well, there has been a great build-up to the series, but are you a little apprehensive of cricket being reduced to a mere sideshow here?
Well, I'm not so apprehensive, Rika. In fact, I'm slightly excited because T20 cricket, if it were to go to the US, it has to be the T20 format that will actually find its roots, at least for the first time. So I'm actually excited to see Indian team going there, playing a couple of matches, and hopefully we'll get to see a bit more in the future. We saw Cricket All-Stars playing 3 matches in the US where all the legends were there. Lots of people turned up. People who played there, I spoke to them. They said it was a fantastic experience. So let's these are uncharted waters, slightly different territory, but let's see how it goes.
Well, Shardha, we've seen the kind of excitement that was there when the CPL team Trinbago Knight Riders travelled there to US. But, you know, over the years, we've seen Indian cricket team playing in Amstelveen, in Malaysia, in Singapore, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Do you see this really being reduced to a one-off affair? Because those series, looking back, you know, they haven't had probably, you know, a great response, and hence they were discontinued.
I think, Rika, what's being attempted here is to try and get them to break into a larger market, as in not just your expat audience as such, but try and get Americans to look at their sport as something that offers an alternative to the vast range of entertainment, sports entertainment options that are available. The West Indies and has played there before. They played against New Zealand and they've played against the Sri Lankans, I think, at the same ground. It's terrific that there's actually an ODI ground there, which is a proper cricket ground rather than a baseball park turned into a cricket stadium. A ground on which you can play, and they would like to get more attention in because the sports market in the US is massively wealthy. You know, it is huge, huge money of the kind that cricket hasn't even seen. And I think there may be a sort of a ceiling limit that has been reached. I don't know, the people who are experts in the business will tell you, in terms of the money that you can generate from broadcast revenues in the existing cricket market. So they're looking for something bigger, I'm assuming. And the Indian team is a good ticket, a hot ticket team to take there because of the fact that it's got 3.2 million Indians and so on in America. But I think they want cricket to break into a larger audience, much like what football has been trying to do as well.
But Shardha, football has not really been able to make an impact in US. We'll talk to a cricket marketeer later in the show. But Akash, let me return to you. MS Dhoni, of course, comes back for these 2 matches. He will play 7 more matches this season, T20s against the West Indies in USA and 5 ODIs against New Zealand. So would you say this is really important for him to get into the groove right from the word go?
Well, that's slightly unfortunate because when you talk about T20 cricket and at the number that he bats, there's hardly any time to find your feet and get yourself into some kind of serious form. And before you blink, the tournament is over. It's just a 2-match series, and there's a game tomorrow and then a day after. So there is no really time to actually now come back to some kind of form. So it is going to be tough for Mahendra Singh Dhoni, but that's the life that he has chosen. So yes, it is going to be important for him because going ahead, you also want to know where Mahendra Singh Dhoni stands in with regards to Indian cricket. Will he be around for the 2019 World Cup? If that's not the case, then what is his target? Is it the 2017 Champions Trophy, or he's looking beyond that? So there are quite a few questions that are up in the air at the moment with regards to India's limited overs captain. They need answering, but it'll happen by and by, I'm sure.
Akash, we'll discuss more cricket with you, but let's go right across to Mr. Venki Mysore, the CEO of KKR, who joins us on the show. Venki, would you say South Florida, where the matches are going to be played, is a natural extension of the West Indies and a good backdoor, as it were, into the US market?
I think so, Rika. I think when we took the decision last year to acquire a team in the Caribbean Premier League and acquired the Trinidad and Tobago team, this was definitely one of our things that was attractive, that there was an opportunity to get our foot in the door in the US market, the North American market, including Canada, potentially because it's the same time zone. And given the size of the diaspora in the US, I think the numbers that I'm aware of is that there's probably 3.5 to 4 million people of Indian
Right,
origin.
we have a graphic
who
on
live
the
there,
screen,
who
in
are,
fact,
very
showing
hungry
that.
for cricket. They consume that content a lot, even when IPL happens. So it was so that's great. And so it was a logical extension for us, and the opportunity to look at that market and extend your fan base there, potentially extend your brand. I mean, it's also a very affluent community, as you know, and they consume a lot of sports, particularly cricket. So it was a great experience. We were there. We played 2 of our games in Fort Lauderdale, very impressive facility, and the crowds were quite decent, considering that it was the first attempt. So overall, it was a great experience there.
Right, Venki, I've been speaking to some people in the US, and they're saying, some of them are saying, the locals are saying that it is an attempt by a few rich guys to make more money. Is there a real connect? Have you been able to strike a real connect with the population there? And are they taking to cricket easily?
See, I think this is like anything else. I would sort of take you back to when IPL started in India. The whole city-based franchise model required a lot of work to be done, because, I mean, for any sports franchise to succeed, as I've shared many times, you build it on 2 pillars. One is your brand and one is your fan base. And to build a fan base takes a lot of effort and investing. So this was the very first attempt. So it's early to say that this was a success, to be honest. But what was successful was that the facilities and the conditions under which cricket was played, and listening to the players and their feedback, they were very happy with the cricketing facilities. I think the infrastructure is really good. So what it provides really is an opportunity to stage competitive games there, so that one can take advantage of not only the facilities but the location, and have access to that market. Now, I think it's going to be incumbent on all of us who intend to go and play there, whether it is a league or whether country to country, as it is happening, India versus West Indies, to be able to invest in building the fan base. And once that happens, and there is an emotional connect that starts, which takes time. We have seen that in Calcutta as we have built our connect with the city. It'll take a little bit of time for that to evolve.
Mr. Mysore, I think Akash wants to make a point here.
Rika, what I actually think, yes, you're trying to get access to a plethora of fans that are there who follow the sport, but eventually they must start playing the sport. I've been to the US a few times, and I've seen the facilities, barring this wonderful stadium in Florida. There aren't enough turf pitches where you can go and practice. In fact, there is a league in Dallas, they call it Dallas Premier League, and they find a slightly different kind of strip between 2 football grounds. So that's AstroTurf pitch, which is like location diagonally, because that's all they could fit in. So eventually these guys need to play, not just the Asian diaspora, but also the Americans, for this game to take roots in that market. It looks very lucrative. Country versus country has always done well. Sharda will tell you that ESPN had the rights for the World Cup in 2015 and even this World T20. They did well, but then for it to be there for a longer duration, they must start playing as well.
Akash, I would want to bring Sharda in right now. Well, Sharda, ICC insists that it's a part of their developmental program in US, but considering that the cricket boards in US are in a bit of a mess, can they bypass that and establish cricket in the United States? I mean ICC.
I think fortunately for the ICC, in a way of speaking, the United States cricket governing bodies are shambolic. They don't have large amounts of money and they can't control the ICC. So they actually have a greater say than they have over any other, say, full test member nation. And I think they would be looking at this particular series with some amount of interest. I've been reading a couple of articles written by Americans, sort of non-diaspora people, sort of Native Americans, if you can call them such, a wrong usage, but talking about how they wanted to see cricket played. They follow the game. There must be a very small percentage of them, but they are there, and they're happy to see this actually taking place. And I think the ICC would be happy if it could actually have maybe regular appearances by these international teams and keep that calendar moving. Maybe it will mean having a couple of their smaller tournaments, World Cricket League, kind of just pop in and out at the time. But what they certainly can't do is just leave that venue stagnant for years at a time, to not have, or to have a season that just lasts a week. That's not going to work. One of the interesting parts that people always point out about cricket is its similarity with baseball, and baseball sort of grew as a resistance to English cricket in 1870s onwards. And they say that a baseball game can sometimes go up to 7 hours, whereas a T20 match, it's done in 3.5 hours, all is over. So I think they're using those routes as well to try and link up once again with this number that they've gone. And just coming back to the point about soccer not being that successful, what soccer has become in the US is a massive playing sport, as in played competitively at school level, because it's not seen as sort of potentially harmful to children as, say, American football is. There are whole issues about sort of concussion and injuries caused by American football, and fewer affluent people have their kids playing American football. They'd rather send them to play soccer, football. So there is all that kind of, how are the ICC going to try and drive this? It's definitely not a 10-year plan. It has to be part of a larger mission. But they need to have, like Akash is saying, sort of literally cricket pitches dotted in some certain parts of the country, and a cricket board that works without fighting with each other every 6 months and getting into squabbles about power control and so on. So if you read there, you cannot match their political shenanigans with anybody's. BCCI, PCB, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh.
Shada, I think Mr. Mysore wants to make a point
Cricket
there.
Association cricket politics are just beyond.
Shada, I think Mr. Mysore wants to make a point here. Yes, Mr. Mysore, go on.
Just a quick one, just to supplement what Sharda was saying and what Akash raised, is maybe if I just draw a quick parallel to Major League Soccer, because I happened to be living in the US at the time Major League Soccer made an entry, and there were court cases to try and stop them. But what happened was that they really, it's a good parallel to see a new sport coming in to the American environment, and cricket is very similar now, is that they actually came in and started at the grassroots level. And to Sharda's point, what has happened, they started at the schools, and it's now the most preferred sport because of all the reasons that Sharda articulated. So it is a grassroots program, and I think once it starts, now at various schools the facilities have been created, and once that commitment is made, then America doesn't hold back on creating infrastructure. So I would expect that there is a model that already exists and there's a parallel that has worked. So if there is that kind of commitment to come in and make this big and spread it at the grassroots level, I think infrastructure will get created, people will take up the sport a lot more, and it will grow. But at the moment, the advantage that I think cricket has is there is a large enough diaspora which has a following. They may not be playing cricket as much there, and Akash, to your point, in various places there is a lot of cricket that happens. It may not be turf wickets, matting wickets and things like that happen. So there is a certain level of activity even at the lower levels that is actually happening. So I think the sport will have the following without a doubt, even to start with right now. But the longer play that Sharda is talking about, I completely agree. It's not a 10-year, 15-year thing. It's probably a 20, 25-year type of a plan. But that's the vision that someone has to have to build it up there.